Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Quoting, Paraphrasing, and Plagiarism lecture. So, I know last lecture we talked a little bit about quotes and paraphrasing. And this lecture, we're going to go a little bit deeper and we're going to talk more about how to structure quotes, paraphrasing, and avoiding plagiarism within your essays. Okay, so I think it's useful to have a conversation about why we use source material to begin with. So you can know a lot of things, but unless you are somebody that's been published, an expert in your field, your professor probably doesn't care. So if you know something to be true and you want to insert that into a paper, or if your research is telling you something, or if your argument needs to go a certain direction, you have to do that with supportive evidence. So that means you have to find sources that are going to support your research, support your argument, or support your thoughts. So in the event that we do that, you are going to need to know how to quote or paraphrase their words properly within your paper. And there are good ways to do that, and there are bad ways to do that, and there are many ways to do this, good and bad. But I'm going to introduce you to a formula which I think is clean, it's clear, and it works in any sort of paper. I have looked at experienced writers, and I have seen them do this in their journal essays that get published, and even in books we see similar documentation. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. So let's talk about quoting. When major sources that constitute much of the support for your essay are used for the first time, okay? And so it's important to recognize that when this happens the very first time, they need to be introduced to your reader. You just don't drop them in there and not say who they are. And so what this does is it gives information about the source to your reader, and it establishes their authority. So if we know that this is a professor from such university who has done years of research on this topic, and in this paper he or she wrote, well, suddenly that sounds a lot better than a staff writer for the local newspaper. Okay, so it's important to tell the reader who the person is and why they're an authority. And so this is done through what we call a lead-in sentence. Now, you might recall from the documentation lecture that I said lead-in sentence prior. Well, that wasn't altogether true. What we saw in documentation was not necessarily a lead-in sentence, although there were elements of a lead-in sentence there. What I'm going to show you guys in this lecture is a complete lead-in sentence for your sources. So a lead-in sentence should do three things. It needs to introduce the source by just their first and last name. It needs to establish credibility of the source, and it needs to state the work that you're quoting them from. So whether that be a book, an article, an essay, a podcast, a YouTube video, a documentary, a TV show, whatever it is that source is coming from, you need to mention it. Okay, and we're going to use the example that I used last time. And you'll recall that here we have Andrea Lunsford. So that was the element that I added in the last lecture for a lead-in sentence, and I called it a lead-in sentence. but it was really just part of one. But still, I wanted to get the concept through that there needs to be something there to introduce the quote or paraphrase depending upon the situation. So we have Andrea Lunsford, a professor at Stanford University and author of several academic texts. Okay, so now we've established her authority. She's a professor at a well-known university, and she has authored academic work. States in her book, The Bedford St. Martin Handbook. So here is our third part, right? So what work is this coming from? So we have number 1, here we have number 2, and here we have number 3. So we have the 3 elements of a lead-in sentence. Okay, and this slide kind of makes it a little prettier than the one that I just gave you, but we have their first and last name, Andrea Lunsford, establishes the credibility as a source, and we state the work that it's being quoted from. All right, so once you have your lead-in sentence, you add the quote according to the proper formatting, either simple in-text or block quote. And you will call this from the last lecture. So we have our lead-in sentence. I'm going to switch to a highlighter here. We have our lead-in sentence here. And we have our comma after the lead-in sentence, and then we have our quote, and you'll recall that we need our quotation marks, and then we have our page number and parenthetical citation. So what we have here is a successful lead-in sentence and a quote. So this is good. We're good here. Are you done at this point? And the answer to that is no, you are not done. Otherwise, you will commit what I call quote dropping, kind of like mic dropping, where people get up and say their bit and drop the mic and they think they're done. They think they're, the hottest thing in the world, and they walk out of the room. Can't do that, okay? So you just can't drop a quote and then leave it in your essay. You have to have a follow-up. So with every quote, there must be a follow-up statement, and this is critical. I'm going to be looking for this. So the point of the follow-up is to explain the quote. So if you tell me that you're giving me important information from your source, I then need you to break that down, whether it be words, numbers, a graphic, charts, whatever. Tell me how it supports your argument or your research or your thoughts. What's going on with this? What is the purpose of it being in your paper? So always make sure that you have the follow-up statement. So in this example here, I'm going to switch back to my pen real quick. We have first our lead-in sentence, all right? So number 1. And then we have our quote. So that's number 2. And then that's followed up with the statement that's going to explain the quote, okay? So Lunsford stresses that the notion that rules change over time. A crucial rule today could be meaningless in a decade or two. This fact underscores that rules change depending on the context and society in which they are used. And this is very true. Rules do change over time. And so this quote reads a lot better when we see the follow-up statement that explains and gives it purpose for being in the paper in the first place. And again, here's another prettier slide that breaks that down for you. Okay, so let's talk about paraphrasing then. So we talked about quoting, and you'll remember from the last lecture that paraphrasing was similar to quoting, the way that we structure it within our essays. And this is going to be true here. So paraphrasing is the act of taking source material and rephrasing it in such a way that it's much different from how the source said it. And so you're just going to paraphrase. But it's governed by the same rules as quoting. So as with a quote, there will be a lead-in sentence. And shocker, you need to follow up with a follow-up statement. Okay? So let's see an example of that over here. So here, again, we have our lead-in statement, a lead-in sentence. And then it's followed up with our paraphrase. And we can tell it ends right here because we have our parenthetical citation that tells us it's on page 1. And then we have our follow-up statement. Okay, and it's the same statement that I used for the quotation. It's just formatted a little bit differently here because it's following a paraphrase instead of a quote, but it's the same. And again, a prettier slide to illustrate that to you. Okay, so plagiarism. I believe we have talked about this at length already. I am confident that everyone knows and understands what plagiarism is. And again, I don't think most people plagiarize intentionally. I think most of the time it's innocent. But even if it's innocent, we need to make sure that we're citing every source we can properly. So we try to avoid that. Number one, it's the cardinal sin of academia. Never, ever, ever do that. But also number two, how would you feel if you publish something and then someone else takes credit for your work? You would probably feel a great sense of injustice, right? There they are quoting you and they're taking your ideas and they're your hard earned facts, like you went out, you did the research, you did the legwork, you worked hard to get it published, and then someone else takes it and just quotes it as if it was their own, right? Doesn't bother to give you any sort of credit. Well, that would probably be upsetting to you, right? And I know we're probably never going to meet these people that we borrow and put into our papers as support. We're never going to really be published anywhere that they would probably read it. I mean, few of us will. So the chances of them feeling that is, nearly zero. But still, you wouldn't like it done to you. Don't do that to other people. So let's make sure that we properly cite and quote. All right, so here are some rules for avoiding plagiarism. So when you quote, they must be word for word from the source and set in quotation marks. So that's pretty easy. Make sure you do that. And then, in the very least, if you forget your parenthetical citation, you're just guilty of MLA formatting issues, not plagiarism. Paraphrases must be in your own words. So it's important to regurgitate the information in such a way that when you state them, they look familiar, but they don't look identical to what the other person has said. So that's what a true paraphrase is. A paraphrase is going to take a six-sentence quote, and it's going to kind of tidy it up into, say, like 2 sentences. So it's going to make it completely different, but still the information, the critical part of it, is going to be there. In-text citations, so they must accompany all quotations, and this is going to be for quotations and paraphrases. And then all sources used in the paper must appear on the works cited page. So sometimes I see students quote perfectly on their essay, they cite perfectly on their essay, but when you get to the works cited page, it's like you're missing half your sources. So where are they? So just because they're in the body of your essay, if you do not include them in the works cited page where I can then get the relevant information of how to find the root source, then you haven't really cited at all. And that is going to be problematic for you because it's kind of like plagiarism adjacent. Did you really know? But you're definitely getting points deducted because you didn't take the time to put them in the works cited page. Okay, and that is it for this lecture. So we are going to cover one more concept, and that's on inserting visuals into a paper. I think that visuals, graphs, pictures, charts, etc., can be very impactful for the reader. So we're going to discuss the elements that have to be accompanied with a visual. And for your research paper, I'm going to ask that everybody put a visual in their paper. So I want to see something there. And this will give you an opportunity to work with that. So definitely jump into the next lecture and you'll see how we do that there. All right.